Now, just as cracks were beginning to show in the Soviet Union towards the end of the 1980s, the Americans here decided to redecorate. These rather crude-looking murals pop up all over Bentwaters, but there's more to them than meets the eye. This hardened aircraft shelter was occupied by members of the aggressor squadron. Their job was to play the Russians during training exercises, and that's why they've decided to cover their hangar with a great big Russian bear.
The 80s were actually the frostiest period of relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. And it was a time in which there was an effort across the military to really visualize the enemy. On the outside of buildings, you would often see the use of official symbols, whether that was the insignia of the branch or of the different aircraft. Meanwhile, inside the buildings, you might see things that were a bit less refined. A lot of the murals that you see at Bentwaters were kind of informally created. They would have been done by individual airmen or groups. So they weren't using, terribly artistic materials. They weren't designed for a sense of, aesthetic quality. They were designed to build morale. One of the things that you saw created in the murals were an effort by different airmen to capture the insignia of their fighter wing. So one of the murals depicts a blue dragon. That's the symbol of the 81st Tactical Fighter Wing. In that mural, the blue dragon is kind of holding Great Britain as though it's a rock guitar in his hand. And the idea was it's kind of showing the spirit of cooperation between Britain and the United States.
The artwork found on many bases is firmly rooted in contemporary street culture. But there was a darker side to the designs.
So there's a lot of symbolism that appears in these murals. One of the things you see is that in one of the ammo or munitions group murals, you see an Air Force member who appears as Death. And the idea really is that in the Cold War, the United States and Britain were up against a foe that didn't really have a face, but that caused a lot of fear. So death sort of symbolizes the idea that, that death could come at any moment. There's one mural that has the slogan, "We live so that others may die." And this was a mural of the munitions branch. The slogan was a reminder of the constant presence of nuclear warfare during the Cold War. There was the possibility of the annihilation of a large part of the globe at any moment. And the munitions branch obviously would have been critical to that taking place. And the murals really brought that sense of home and identity to the different organizations within the military. They created a visual reminder of what it was these individuals were fighting for and who they were fighting against.